I'm going to give you a breakdown of the 2020 College Football National Championship game between the Clemson Tigers and the LSU Tigers, and we're starting right now. What is going on? My name is Alpha Omega. Welcome to another video. So in the college football playoff semifinals, we had the LSU Tigers, as expected, blowing out the Oklahoma Sooners in a game that was never in doubt. The Sooners were the odd man out this year in the college football playoffs, as once again a Lincoln Riley coached team had no defense, and that lack of defense got torched by Heisman winning quarterback Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers over and over again. It was really a disgrace, and Lincoln Riley specifically should be ashamed of himself. Now, on the other hand, Clemson and Ohio State played a classic that came down to the final possession, and the Buckeyes, in my opinion, played a much better game than Clemson, but the 3 red zone possessions that resulted in 3 field goals rather than 3 touchdowns cost the Buckeyes the game, and Clemson did play well, especially quarterback Trevor Lawrence, who is without question the best NFL prospect in college football, regardless of who won the Heisman Trophy. However, before we get into the breakdown between Clemson and LSU, take a moment and click the link in the description. Head over to my website and sign up for a sports pick package. My goal in providing you with my daily picks is to build your winnings up to the point where you can loosen the grip of, or even break free from the rat race of living paycheck to paycheck. I know how it is out there, and signing up with me and betting on the plays that I send out can go a long way in helping you achieve those goals. And while college football and bowl season is just about over, based on my college basketball winnings and my college basketball models so far this season, where I'm hitting at 60%, there is no reason why the ride has to end here. Football coming to an end really is a good thing for you and for me as a sports bettor, because while I did have an amazing season in football this year, college basketball is a much more inefficient marketplace. What that means is that it's much easier to make money. Think about it like this. Now, the NFL has 32 teams, which means that per week, the maximum number of games that can be played is 16. Whereas in college basketball, we're talking about sometimes more than 150 games per week, with a vast majority of those games drawing very little betting action outside of sharp action, which means that the sportsbooks aren't focusing their resources on those games. And that is where I take advantage, and that's also where you can take advantage if you sign up with me. What I do is I look for games where the betting lines are wrong, and every year I make money for myself and my clients doing just that. Now, while a major goal of this channel is to grow my brand and bring on more new clients, unlike the vast majority of handicappers or touts out there, I do not derive the majority of my income from people buying picks. The majority of my income comes from actually betting on the games myself, with the only difference between the plays that you receive from me and the plays that I bet on myself is that I generally bet on the opening lines, so I often get a better number because of that. However, I also don't send you bad numbers. So if the play no longer has value, I don't send it to you. And if I do send you a play, I am betting on it myself. Also, as the football season wraps up, I'm going to try to shorten the length of these videos, not this one, but other videos. While I do enjoy the deep dive on individual games, the way that the YouTube algorithm works, the more content that I put out, the more that YouTube promotes my content. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be tinkering with the balance between quality and quantity so that I'm still providing you with useful information to make your bets, but I'm also helping myself by being able to put out more content. Now, before I go further, if you like what I do here and you enjoy independent content on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking and sharing this video. I know that's a lot of work, but that's the game that I have to play to grow this channel and stay competitive against the giant corporations and corporate sports channels that YouTube has decided to prioritize. Okay, let's get into the national championship game between the Tigers and the Tigers. The Alpha Omega Vegas consensus line has the LSU Tigers favored by 5.5 points, with the total sitting at 69.5. The game opened as LSU favored by a field goal, but that line was quickly bet up to the current number. handicapper. Implied odds mean based on the current moneyline odds, what is the projected implied probability of victory? Basically, it's the chances of victory expressed as a percentage. In this case, Vegas is saying the LSU Tigers have a 69% probability of winning the game outright, with the Clemson Tigers having a 35% chance of pulling off the upset. Using my base power rankings, I have Clemson favored by 2 points with a total of 70. But remember, my base power rankings are only a starting point for your handicap and are not the final numbers I use to make my bets. For the first time in the college playoffs 6-season history, the national championship game will include both the regular season's best defense and its best offense. The #1 ranked LSU defense, relying on a new spread system and a quarterback who went from 200-1 to runaway Heisman Trophy winner, will confront a defense that just curbed Ohio State's offense that had scored almost 47 points per game this season. Starting with the LSU offense, in the span of one season, Coach Ed Orgeron's decision to change to a spread-based scheme took its offense from 38th in the country to #1. While the change of offensive scheme can be attributed to Orgeron, the main reason for the effectiveness of the offense must be attributed to quarterback Joe Burrow. Burrow, the quarterback who transferred from Ohio State, has thrown 55 touchdown passes, including a college football record 7 touchdowns against the previously mentioned putrid Oklahoma Sooner defense, and is expected to be the #1 pick in the 2020 draft by the Cincinnati Bengals. With the help of a talent like Burrow, LSU has developed into the most prolific offense in SEC history by utilizing a base of talent and athleticism and predicating the offense around speed to open up space for receivers to get open. One of those receivers is standout Justin Jefferson, who exploded for 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma and was a huge piece to college football's best offense. Jefferson ranks 3rd in the nation in catches with 103 and receiving yards 1,434, and is tied with teammate Jamar Chase for the touchdown lead with 18. And what makes these stats so important against Clemson is that Jefferson isn't even LSU's best receiver. That title belongs to the aforementioned Jamar Chase, who leads the nation with 1,498 yards and shares the touchdown lead of 18 with Jefferson. As if the LSU offense didn't have enough firepower, running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been one of the most productive skill players in college football, rushing for 1,290 yards on 6.6 yards per carry to go with 16 rushing touchdowns in the regular season, with 6 games of 100 or more rushing yards and 4 games with multiple scores. As well, Edwards-Helaire has been especially productive during games against ranked competition, averaging 107.5 rushing yards per game with 7 total touchdowns in LSU's wins against Florida, Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia. What takes Edwards-Helaire to another level is in his impact as a receiving target. Edwards-Helaire ranks 3rd on the team with 50 receptions, with 30 of those catches coming on first down. As much as any LSU skill player, Edwards-Helaire's varied skill set allows the Tigers scheme to play off the traditional script and keep opposing defenses off balance. It's important to point out that Edwards-Helaire suffered a hamstring injury in December bowl practices and saw just 2 carries in Saturday's playoff semifinal blowout of Oklahoma. Not that the Tigers needed him in that spot, given how the game unfolded. The running back appears to be trending in the right direction, and according to reports has been practicing without limitations. The injury to Edwards-Helaire is the only offensive LSU injury to be concerned about moving forward toward the title game. The keys for the LSU offense will be protecting Joe Burrow and giving him time to throw, Burrow handling the different looks presented by the #1 ranked Clemson defense and making the right reads, and the LSU receivers creating space against the elite Clemson secondary and converting explosive plays. If the LSU offense accomplishes their team goals, LSU will cover the spread and win the game. As I already mentioned, this game matches up the #1 offense in LSU with the #1 defense in Clemson. And although Clemson's best known players are on the offensive side of the ball, Clemson has returned to the championship game on the back of its defense, which at the beginning of the season was expected to have a less productive year after losing so many defensive playmakers to the NFL draft. However, Clemson defense has statistically been more dominant this year than last. While Clemson has yielded the fewest points, 10.6, and yards per game, 245, 24.7 during the regular season, it has been at its best in the shadow of their own goalposts. If you're looking for a prime example of the Clemson defense's skill in the red zone, just rewatch the semifinal against Ohio State, where the Buckeyes ventured into the red zone 5 times and left with only 1 touchdown, 3 field goals, and the interception by safety Nolan Turner that sealed the game for Clemson. The fact that LSU is favored against an unbeaten Clemson team reminds me of a very similar situation that Clemson was faced with last year in the 2019 title game against Alabama, who prior to the game against Clemson was making a case as the greatest college football team of all time, with an unbelievably potent offense which averaged nearly 48 points per game. The Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was a Heisman runner-up and potential #1 overall NFL pick. Then Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables drew up schemes that forced a pair of Tagovailoa interceptions and left Alabama scoreless for the game's final 2.5 quarters. LSU hasn't scored fewer than 37 points since October, but a Clemson defense allowing an average of 11.5 points and 151.5 passing yards, led by All-American linebacker Isaiah Simmons, may be the only team in the country capable of slowing down the LSU offensive combination of 5,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers. The keys for the Clemson defense will be getting pressure on Joe Burrow and forcing Burrow into hurried throws, the Clemson secondary slowing down the elite LSU receiving corps and coming up with at least 1 turnover, and Clemson stopping the LSU running game, forcing LSU to become one-dimensional. If Clemson accomplishes their team goals, Clemson will cover the spread and win the game. Before I continue with the betting guide, if you are enjoying the video and if you feel like you're getting good information that can help you gain an edge over the sportsbooks and make smarter sports wagers, make sure and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated with the latest sports betting content from me, professional sports handicapper Alpha Omega. Also, make sure and click the link in the description of the video, check out my website, and sign up for a sports betting package. I literally break down sports information and make my living based on that information every day. I take all of the sports data I can find, I factor all of that data into mathematical betting models to make my picks, and I send you the same picks that I bet on myself. I have packages for every level of sports bettor, from a beginner who is just coming into the sports betting world to the expert bettor who just needs that extra edge to take them to the next level. Make the smart decision and sign up with a professional today. While the LSU offense deservedly gets most of the media coverage, the LSU defense has been peaking at the right time, as evidenced by LSU holding a fantastic Oklahoma offense to its lowest total yardage and yards per play outputs of the season, while tying its lowest scoring mark. Oklahoma's offense is one of the best in the country, and the LSU defense blew them off the map, which speaks to the level at which the LSU defense is currently playing at heading into the national championship game. Leading up to the college football playoff, LSU held Arkansas to 20 points, Texas A&M to 7 points, Georgia to 10 points, and Oklahoma to a season-low 28 points in the final 4 games of the season. In those final 4 games, the defense allowed 230 yards rushing on 79 carries, a 2.9 yard per carry average that would have ranked 5th nationally in 2019. Through the air, LSU has allowed quarterbacks Kellen Mond, Jake Fromm, and Jalen Hurts to complete only 42% of their passes for 547 yards, 1 touchdown, and 6 interceptions. LSU's secondary is playing out of its mind, with possibly its toughest test of the season on deck. The play of the LSU defense may be the deciding factor in the national championship, because although LSU does hold the edge offensively, Clemson's offense has been nearly as explosive as LSU's, and there has been more than one offense that has exploited LSU's defensive unit this season. Another wrinkle for the LSU defense is the return of senior linebacker Michael Divinity, one of the team's best pass rushers, who has not played since LSU beat Auburn on October 26th. Divinity has missed 9 games this season. He led the team in sacks before his first 2-week departure earlier this season. Divinity will start in LSU's dime package, and while Coach Orgeron has not disclosed the full details of Divinity's circumstances, Divinity could have left the team and trained for the NFL draft, but the senior wanted to stay through the end of the season. While the return of Divinity helps LSU will have to continue to play play above the talent level in order to slow down the defending national champion Clemson Tiger offense. The keys for the LSU defense will be putting pressure on Trevor Lawrence, forcing the quarterback to run the football or force passes, the LSU defensive line slowing down Clemson's running back and star playmaker Travis Etienne, forcing Lawrence to look elsewhere, and the LSU secondary preventing Clemson from gaining yards after catch on explosive plays. If LSU accomplishes their team goals, LSU will cover the spread and win the game. Clemson's Trevor Lawrence has been unbelievable this season, and I believe Lawrence to be the best NFL prospect in college football. While Lawrence has been amazing, it became apparent against Ohio State, Clemson's only worthy opponent, that Lawrence had to overcome some weaknesses around him. The Clemson offensive line was consistently beating by the Ohio State defense with Chase Young, with Lawrence being forced to scramble for a season-high 107 yards. While LSU's defensive line isn't quite as effective as Ohio State's, Lawrence may be forced to use his legs to make plays again. Having said that, Lawrence is the #1 difference maker for the Clemson offense, and his ability to throw and run puts Lawrence in a class all by himself, regardless of who holds the Heisman Trophy. Running back Travis Etienne, while running the ball on only 19% of his team's plays this year, as Clemson star quarterback Trevor Lawrence spread the ball around to a rich array of weaponry. But when Etienne did run the ball, he scored a touchdown or gained a first down 37% of the time. Etienne also ranks first nationally in rushing yards per carry with 8.24. Etienne also broke tackles on 46% of his carries this season, setting a college record. And of his 1,500 rushing yards this year, 65% came after contact with defenders. The point is that Etienne is the most dangerous skill position player on Clemson's offense and can literally turn negative yardage into a touchdown, has the speed to burn any defender on LSU, and Etienne will be the player that LSU spends the most time scheming for and against. Lawrence also has dual star receivers in sophomore Justin Ross and junior T. Higgins, both projected first-round picks in the draft. Higgins exited the Fiesta Bowl in the first half after suffering an apparent head injury early in the first quarter of the Tigers matchup with the Buckeyes, but the star wide receiver returned in the second half, and there was a noticeable difference to the Clemson passing game when Higgins was on the field. Justin Ross also entered and left the game on 3 separate occasions due to shoulder issues. However, Ross was still the leading Clemson receiver against Ohio State. Both receivers will need to be monitored as we move closer to game day. While I do expect both to play, how healthy and therefore how productive the star duo will be is up in the air. The keys for the Clemson offense will be taking advantage of LSU's secondary for deep completions downfield, the Clemson offensive line giving Lawrence enough time in the pocket to throw those deep passes, and Travis Etienne beating the LSU defensive scheme and making plays on the ground throughout the game. If Clemson is able to accomplish their team goals, Clemson will cover the spread and win the game. The margin of victory in this game will be determined by the LSU offense getting separation from the Clemson secondary, which will allow Burrow to make plays, the Clemson defense forcing hurried throws and at least 1 turnover, the LSU defense putting pressure on Trevor Lawrence by taking advantage of a weak Clemson offensive line, and Travis Etienne having a big game against LSU. Whichever team accomplishes their team goals will cover the spread and win the game. Okay guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think. If you feel like you're gaining information that will help you in your sports betting, or if you have questions, make sure and let me know in the comments. And if you like what you heard in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like what you heard, thanks for sticking around through the whole video. Also, remember to head over to my website and sign up for one of my sports packages. And remember, I have sports packages for every type of sports bettor. Whether you're an everyday bettor who wants that extra little edge to help you cash more winners, or you're just getting into sports betting and you want to find out how to make money betting on sports, you got to make sure and click the link in the description of the video, head over to my website and sign up for a package now. And if you want to stay updated with all the latest sports betting guides across all major sports, start now by hitting the round subscribe icon so you don't miss anything. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.